Sage 300 ERP includes a powerful reporting tool called Sage Business Intelligence. It comes with a report manager that allows you to create and edit reports as well as filter and aggregate data from your Sage 300 ERP system. There's also an optional report designer that expands upon the functions of the report manager. It's an Excel-based extension that allows you to generate financial statements in seconds. You can edit or create financial report layouts using simple drag-and-drop functionality. It includes a what-if analyzer, and it comes with 5 templates to help you get started quickly. In this tutorial, our goal is to provide an introduction to the report designer so that you'll be able to access it, run reports, and understand its editing capabilities. In subsequent tutorials, we'll show you how to create and edit reports using the report designer. So now let's jump right in and get started. To access the report designer, we'll go to the menu tree and select Sage ACPAC Intelligence, then Report Manager. Here in the Report Manager, if you've purchased a Report Designer license, you'll find it on the menu tree, and double-clicking reveals a report template that comes with the product. If you're using the portal, you would access it by opening the Reports menu, select Sage ERP ACPAC Intelligence, then Report Manager, and this brings us to the same point. So continuing on, here we have a report template named Financial Report Designer 2-1. As with all report templates that are provided in the Report Manager, we can't modify the original, so we'll need to create a copy and place it in a folder where it can be edited without disturbing the original. To do this, we'll first create a new folder by right-clicking on Home and select Add Folder. And let's name it My Reports, and then click OK. Now we'll right-click the template and choose Copy, then go back up, and on My Reports, we'll right-click, then Paste. Let's edit the name by right-clicking and select Rename. We'll delete Copy of, and at the end add Standard, and we'll save this by clicking OK. Now we need to choose how the renamed template should be saved, and we'll select the recommended option, which is to assign a new name and delete the old template if it's unused by other reports. Now we're ready to run this report. So with the template highlighted, we'll go up to the menu and click the Run button. On the far right, notice the Report Parameters window, and here we'll enter the financial year for our report, and based on the sample data that we're using, we'll select 2020 and then click OK to begin processing the report. Note that it will take a few moments as it retrieves the data from our Sage 300 ERP system. Now we need to map our Sage 300 ERP system categories to Report Designer reporting groups. On the left side, we have the system categories, and these are the account groups that are defined in our Sage 300 ERP General Ledger. On the right side, we have the Report Designer's reporting groups. These can be modified, but we'll leave that for another tutorial. So now let's map our system categories to the Report Designer's reporting groups. Starting with the first two, cash and cash equivalents, and other current assets, these should map to current assets. To do this, we'll highlight current assets on the right, then on the left, select cash and cash equivalents, then Control-click Other Current Assets to select both, and clicking Add maps them together. Next we have Other Current Liabilities, and this should map to Current Liabilities, which we'll highlight, then click on the account group, then Add. And Revenue will go to Sales, and we'll click Add, and Depreciation Expense will go to Expenses. Now that all of our Sage 300 ERP General Ledger account groups have been mapped to Report Designer reporting groups, we can click OK. The message confirms that we've completed the mapping and reminds us to use the Create and Link function to permanently save them. By doing so, we won't need to repeat the mapping. We'll do this at the end of the tutorial. Now let's click OK and Excel launches, and you should take some time to review the notes here. Next, we'll go up to the menu and open the BI Tools tab, and here we have menu items specific to the Report Designer. Let's click Launch, and we're presented with 3 options. We're going to load one of the pre-built layouts that's provided with the Report Designer, so we'll click Load Layout. Here you can see that we have layouts for a balance sheet, 3 variations of an income statement, and 1 for a trial balance. For each, we have the option to edit, copy, delete, or generate the layout. To understand the Report Designer, it's best for us to first run a report and review its structure. Then we'll open the editor to understand how it was constructed. This will give you a feel for how easy it is to edit and create reports using the Report Designer. So let's now launch the actual versus prior income statement by clicking Generate. It takes a few moments to run, and when it's finished, we receive a message that it generated successfully. We'll start our review in the upper left corner. Here we have the code of the Sage 300 ERP database that we're reporting from, along with the report title and the parameter we initially set, which was the year 2020. Moving to the rows, here we find the Report Designer reporting groups along with some calculated items. You may recall that earlier in this tutorial, we mapped our general ledger account groups to these reporting groups. You can have up to 2 additional reporting levels, and that is the case in this report. To view the second level, we'll click the 2 in the upper left, and this reveals our general ledger account groups. Let's view the third level by clicking 3, and now we can see the detailed accounts and descriptions that roll up into the summary numbers. You can also expand and collapse the rows by clicking the plus and minus signs to the far left. And let's collapse this back to the first level by clicking on 1. Now let's take a look at the columns. This report shows the 2020 results versus the prior year for each month along with the variance. So here you can see January, February, and March, and scrolling to the right, we have the quarterly results. If we continue scrolling, you can see that this repeats for subsequent months, and at the far end, we have the year-to-date results. So now that we've reviewed the report layout, let's take a look at the Report Designer interface to see how it was constructed. To do this, we'll go up to the Excel menu bar and click Quick Edit and select Income Statement Actual versus Prior. Here we have the Report Designer interface, and the title bar shows that this is the layout design for the IS or Income Statement Actual versus Prior report. While this interface might appear daunting at first glance, with a quick tour, you'll see that it's actually quite intuitive, so let's take a closer look. Let's first reposition the window so we can see the designer and the report at the same time. Let's also minimize Excel's ribbon menu. Starting with the report rows, notice that the rows in the designer correspond to the rows on the report, so we have sales, cost of sales, gross profit percent, other income, and so on. You may have also noticed that the spacers inserted between the rows in the layout correspond to blank lines separating the rows in the report. To see where these rows came from, we'll open the Rows tab in the central portion of the designer. The items in the darker color are the ones that the author of this report dragged and dropped into the row layout on the left side. We mentioned earlier that some of the rows are calculations, and an example would be gross profit. Calculations are built in the right-hand section, and again, those that are shown in dark blue are the ones the report author chose to drag and drop onto this report. Let's take a look at the gross profit calculation by right-clicking on the item. This opens the formula builder, and it too has a drag and drop interface. So to build this calculation for gross profit, the report author dragged the standard items from the left side and function items from the right as appropriate. Now let's close this and move to the text columns in the designer. You may recall that we were able to expand our rows to see further details, and let's redo that by clicking on 3 in the report. And here you again can see the account numbers and names. Bringing the Designer interface back up and selecting the Text Columns tab, notice that the author of this report dragged and dropped the account number and account name items into this area to show these expanded row details. Now let's take a look at the report columns. Notice that they also directly correspond to those in the report. Specifically, we see results for each month of 2020 alongside the 2019 prior year and variance. Further, we have the results of each quarter. You may recall that the report also included year-to-date results, and scrolling to the end of the Report Designer, you can see the corresponding year-to-date columns. Again, looking at the Columns tab, you can see the darker items that were drag and dropped by the author into the columns area. Specifically, we have all of the 2020 month fields, and scrolling further, all of the 2019 prior year months. We also have some calculated columns, again, denoted by their dark blue color, and these were created here in the right-hand pane, then drag and dropped into place in the column area. Our last step in this and every Report Manager template design is to ensure the report mappings that we've made stay connected to this copy of the report template. To do this, the report needs to be open, which in our case it is. Next, we'll return to the Report Manager main screen. Here we'll right-click on the copy of the report that we have open and select Create and Link Template. We'll highlight the report, then click OK. And here we'll choose Yes, then OK, and Yes to replace the file, and Yes to save our layout changes. And the message notifies us that the linking operation was completed successfully. So the mappings we made earlier are now permanently saved, and we can rerun the report without having to remap the groupings. And that completes our introduction to the Sage 300 ERP Business Intelligence Report Designer. Give us a call if you need assistance with this or any other feature in your Sage 300 ERP system. Well, that's it for this tutorial. Bye for now.